All of a sudden, here they come, helos. You want to go home? I said, yeah. He goes, I mean, he was almost in tears. It's on YouTube. The video's there. I just say, keep stand still 5.5 years. So we just all jump on Cesar because Cesar pulled a pistol. I hit him in the head a couple times, and then he just leans over, gets in his face. He taps on my chest. He said, good luck. It was the coolest thing in the world, man. They pulled his pants down around his ankles, and he's in his underwear, his little bikinis, you know. And the commandante goes, hey, folks, if you hear helicopters, don't worry. It's cool. There's no problems. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Mark and I are looking at each other. We're just trying to process this, right? All of a sudden, here they come, helos. So we see the MI come overhead, just doing a circle. There's no panic. There's no anything. Other guerrillas were there standing around watching us that had never seen us ever before. So we're like, holy geez, what's going down here? And did they look like Red Cross birds? There's been a lot of criticism about that. Yeah, they did. White and red. I get it. And I'm glad they did. So they go down and get us in the canoes, and we cross the river, and we go up into the coca field, and we're all standing there. And there's a film of us. There's a film online of this going down, of me, we're all talking. So helicopter lands while we're all standing there, and a fake news crew gets out. We're like, you know, and the lead Colombian officer from the operation, and you got to admit, this is all volunteer, right? So you just had a handful of guys and a woman who was a nurse, a Colombian, was she naval or army? I can't remember. A woman married with kids volunteered to go in as a nurse. They're all in civilian clothes. I think the pilots, all they had was a pistol stuck in their boot. That was it. They were on their own, man. If this cover was blown, everybody's dying. So the crew walks up and starts interviewing Cesar, the commandante, and Goffes is there. And we're all like, what's happening? And he walked away with the commandante for a little bit, and they came back, and they had large zip ties, which we'd already been trained to break out of, right? But still. So I said, man, look at that. So some of the Colombian soldiers said, you're not putting those on me. A couple of the soldiers said, I don't care. You're not zip tying me before the helicopter. So this one guy is in front of us. He's got red hair, and it's Mark and I and Tom. And he walks up to me, and he's almost in tears. And I said, who are you? He said, I'm from Australia. So I grabbed his ID, and I said, this is bullshit. I'm about to blow the whole thing. Actually, up at the unit, when I did the briefing, the Colombian colonel was up there with General Hutmacher. He said, yeah, Stansel almost ruined the whole fucking rescue being a dumbass. So Mark gets next to me. He goes, I'm from Australia. I said, Mark, you're not Australian, and you're not from Australia. And he gets nervous, and he starts to almost cry. And he goes, look. He said, yeah, you want to go home? I said, yeah. He goes, I mean, he was almost in tears. He goes, please come with us. We're taking you home. So I yelled, Mark, or to Tom, I said, Tom, put those fucking tie wraps on. And we, but we almost blew it right there, because Mark and I did not believe this guy, which we smell about in a second. And when we did the debrief and saw him again, and Carolina's like, man, you just terrified me. I didn't know what to say to you guys. But I said, put on the tie wraps. Once we put the tie wraps on, and you can see us, and it's on YouTube. The video's there. I just say, keep stand still 5.5 years in the jungle. I didn't know who the fake news crew was, but they legitimately filmed. And we got on the bird. And so they're taking us to certain spots. So we were psychologically profiled, like who's going to be a troublemaker, who's not, who's going to be a troublemaker, who's not. I was in the troublemaker category. A couple other guys were. So I sit down for a second, and I start to stand up, and this Colombian soldier, who was basically dressed like a civilian, he just grabs me, slams me in the seat. He said, here, next to me, man, next to me, bro. I said, all right. And so I broke out of my out of my wraps. And just the same trick we're taught, to do that. I still start yelling at Mark. Mark's like, what are you doing? You're going to get in trouble. I said, break out of the wraps, break out of the wraps. And then Goffas and Cesar were supposed to give up their pistols, but I can't remember if Goffas did, but Cesar kept his. And he's right behind us. And so it was just a flurry, right? Everybody gets on the bird, and then they drop a case of beer off next to the aircraft for the guys and wave at them, and they pulled up the doors, and we just pulled up, And I remember the guy looking at me next to me. He's, Colombian SF guy, but he's obviously, and he's like, Colombian Army motherfuckers, right? So we just all jump on Cesar because Cesar pulled a pistol. And Mark has the med kit next to him, and they're yelling at Mark, take the needle out and stab him with the needle. I just happened to be close to Cesar, so I got on his chest, and that's what your assistant was showing, my bloody hand. I mean, they got pictures. I hit him in the head a couple times, and then the Colombian really took over doing a number on him. But he had his hand with the pistol, and he disarmed him. And it was 30 seconds, and it was over. I mean, it was over. And we're clapping and yelling. They're yelling, Colombian Army, police. And I mean, the euphoria. I got to be careful not to cry right now. It's just incredible. And I look at Tom. I said, Tom, man, we're on this Russian piece of shit helicopter. I hope we get back. It was a high. It was a high, right? Then Goffas, the abuser, the nasty guy, right? The old man Cesar he was going to go down fighting in the helicopter. Goffas just like a little bitch, just hit the ground. And they pulled his pants down around his ankles. And he's in his underwear, his little bikinis, and they're holding him. He didn't put up a fight at all. And he had been very abusive to Tom, making Tom put 15 meters of chain, 3 5-meter chains around his neck and marching, and threatened to shoot Tom one time. And so it's a couple minutes into it. Everybody's kind of calming down. We're all hugging and high-fiving, and they basically shot, I don't know what kind of sedative they gave to Cesar, and, they're taking pictures and everything. And Tom goes over to Goffas, and Mark and I are looking, and he kneels down. I know, man, he's gonna like, and Tom's an old curmudgeon, man. He grew up Cape Cod, Coalhagen, paid for flight school that way. He's a grumpy old bastard, man. He's just a no shit kind of guy and stuff. I thought for sure that Tom was gonna do something to Cesar. He just leans over, gets in his face, he taps on my chest. He said, good luck. It was the coolest thing in the world, man.
Wow.
And then we're just, then they flew us to a fob there, and we got off of that, off the helo, got onto a 130, then we went into the Capitol. And I remember, I'd like to know who the guy was. I think all the guys there, I don't think there were any SEALs. I think it was all Delta that was on the ground right there for our bird. I'm not sure. Big old dude. He had an American flag on. I just walked up to him. I just put my arms around him. I saw that flag. And I was like, we made it. We made it. And, but when I saw him, it was one of our people. I wish I knew who he was. He was laughing at me. He's a big old jerk. I jumped on his ass and just hugged him. And we were going home. So we jumped on the 130, and, they got us to basically another base, and we jumped on Uribe's Air Force One, that flew us into Bogota. And we got off of that, and then we got on the C-17 and headed home. But it was it's still emotional. I think basically 4 of my friends died looking for me. Tommy didn't make it out. Sergeant Cruz didn't make it out, So there's a little bit of, it's apprehension, maybe a little guilt, in there that we made it and they didn't.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.